and welcome to Fairyland Cottage, and thanks very much for joining me here today, where I'm going to share with you my absolute favourite zero waste things I do or products in the home and when I'm out and about. Let's get right into my first one. It's going to be when out and about, and it has to be the reusable bag. I just think it's one of these staples that you can keep in your handbag, and there are trillions of plastic bags just thrown on landfill. We've all seen those photos. They end up in the ocean, the wildlife are eating them. It's definitely not a good thing all round, and it's really simple to avoid by having a reusable bag with you. Next is bringing my own water. I know not everybody has drinkable water, but if you do, it has reduced all those water I used to buy in supermarkets in plastic bottles, and there are billions of plastic bottles sent to landfill every year, so this avoids all of that. Simple napkin I bring with me everywhere I go, and if there's paper napkins where I am, I just take it out and use it. Next is the simple muslin bags or just little cotton bags. Very easy to make or buy, and I use this every time I go out so I don't have to use those single tiny plastic bags. And this for when I'm filling up with nuts or something, or maybe a little bit of fruit, vegetables. Keep them in a little bag like this, super light, and they just stay in my handbag. And last but not least, for when I'm out and about, is the coffee cup. There are billions of coffee cups thrown on landfill every year. And it's something that's so simple to avoid by just taking a reusable coffee cup with you. And they're so widespread now. You can even find them now in secondhand charity shops. There's so many of them out there. And even if you don't want to spend the money and get your takeaway coffee, I'll always make my tea at home. And then when I'm out and about, if I do want something, I have that cup there. So they're my absolute favourite essentials on the go. There's loads of other ones you can do too, but these are my top 5. So moving on to in the home, and the main change I think has to be the bamboo toothbrush. There's a billion toothbrushes thrown on landfill alone in the US every year, they say, and this is enough to go around the world stretched 4 times. It's a huge amount of plastic that gets thrown on landfill again, ends up in oceans, and the wildlife eat it. And it's such a simple swap. It's not perfect. It has nylon bristles. There are some you can get with compostable bristles, but the thing with a toothbrush is that you need to keep changing it every 3 to 4 months, so it saves an incredible amount of waste by just going for the bamboo toothbrush. The next one is the boiling of a kettle. Now, if we have the stove on, then we'll heat the water up on the stove and pop it into a flask, and then that keeps it warm and it stops us having to use the kettle. And if we do have to use the kettle, I'll always fill the kettle up with the amount of water that will fit into our flask. There was a report done by the Energy Saving Trust, and it said that 3/4 of British households overfill their kettles, wasting a total of £68 million every year. And this is a huge amount of money, and it said that 40% of people boiled water about 5 times a day. So we can get away with boiling the kettle once a day, filling it up, and then using that water throughout the day. And obviously the bigger the flask you have, the better it's going to be, and the more water you can store. My favourite one for teas. I'm a big tea drinker. We used to buy tons of tea bags, and I remember when I was in my grandparents' house, we used to always compost them out in the back garden, but I'd always come at the end after a few months and they'd be still there, because a lot of them now are lined in plastic and again end up in the oceans, little fishy using it as food. It's a really simple change. And it's just like a change in habit. And even if you have to have packaging in the loose leaf tea, it's still saving so much waste. Next is using jars for another purpose, mainly for storage. So these are all coconut oil jars that I've collected over years. And I used to always buy those plastic containers to store food in. They ended up breaking after a year or so. I know glass can break as well, but it doesn't seem to break as often for me. And then you can use this to store nuts and seeds, especially because I buy a lot of my food package free. It saves on money waste and it saves on plastic waste. Last but not least is the LED light bulb, which uses 75% less energy and lasts for 25 times longer than a traditional light bulb. So this is a huge way to save money and electricity. So thanks very much for watching. Love to know what are your absolute favorites for zero waste products or things that you've done. Let me know down below or on Instagram, and I will chat to you as much as I can during the week, and I'll see you in the next video. Have a good one.